Hi, everyone. Welcome to the launch of the Global Digital Nomad Report 2024. I'm your host, Shazani Campos, and today I proudly introduce you to an incredible panel of experts to discuss the findings of this comprehensive report on digital nomadism. So, joining us today are Ana Maria Kochanska, digital nomad and founder and CEO of the Remote Impact, Michaela Vieira, project manager of Startup Madeira, Luis Calado, founder of Madeira Friends, Gonçalo Hall, CEO at nomadx and remote work evangelist, and Laura Madrid, who is a lead researcher at Global Intelligence Unit at Global Citizen Solutions. I will share with you some housekeeping notes before we start. Our live should take about 30 to 35 minutes. First, we will have a chat with our guests and delve into their expertises, and then I will open the floor for questions. And yes, this is being recorded and it will be posted in our YouTube channel. On that note, if you are not able to stay until the end, you can just leave your question here and our guests will aim to answer all at the end. And you can watch the video later. Now, let me tell you a bit about the Digital Nomad Report. To give you a brief overview, our report covers 65 jurisdictions that have active digital nomad programs. According to recent data from Nomad List, there are over 35 million digital nomads worldwide, and it's a number that continues to grow as remote work becomes more and more mainstream. You can find the report, including a ranking of the best countries to be a digital nomad, on our website, Global Intelligence Unit. It's a tab on top of the Global Citizen Solutions website. Now, enough of me. I'd like to pass the mic on to our specialists. So I will start with Laura, okay? Laura, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you all here. So I'll drop the first question to you. Can you share with us some takeaways from the report and explain why the top destinations scored the best?
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. And I'm happy to be here with everybody else because all of us here have some understanding or experience about digital nomadism. And just to give a little bit of context before we delve into the takeaways of the report, our report, as you said, compiled data on 65 digital nomad programs that are active. We used 12 indicators and we clustered into 5 sub-indexes. So we analyzed visa costs, visa benefits, economics, tech and innovation, and quality of life. And the main takeaways when we analyze the data are that we noted that according to the empirical information that we have about digital nomadism programs and regulations, 91% of the programs started after the pandemic. So countries used these regulations as a response for losing revenue, for instance, in tourism and other areas. When you talk about income requirements, we noted that countries in Asia are the ones that will charge more or require more of income from digital nomads. So you can have a better understanding on what kind of digital nomad every country or jurisdiction want to attract. Also, we realize that there are many countries that take into consideration the time you spend as a digital nomad to give you direct access to citizenship or residency permit. And this is important because many digital nomads nowadays are using this kind of schemes to leverage and enhance their mobility. So when you talk about passport strength, Although we know that more than 50% of digital nomads come from countries that have strong passports that are related to global north, more people from countries that have less strong passports are using this kind of programs to leverage their mobility, their global mobility. And also many digital nomads are using these programs to do what we call geo arbitrage, where people try to get benefits from countries where they have the best quality of life, but still economically it makes more sense for them to establish or relocate in those jurisdictions. And there was one finding that we thought that was very important, because usually when you talk about digital nomad, you think that countries impose a lot of requirements for people to relocate in their territories, like professional requirements or nationality requirements. But we found out that 60% of the programs do not impose any requirement, not related to nationality, neither with professional requirements. So virtually any people can relocate in those countries if they fill the income requirements, for instance. And and I think those are the most important key findings. But if you go through the report on our website, you're also going to find regional insights and other very interesting information. We have an overall index, and then we have the 5 sub-indexes that are related to visa costs, visa benefits, economics, tech and innovation, and quality of life.
Thank you, Laura. Tell me about the ranking quickly. So, who are the 3 top best countries for digital nomads? Where are the 3 countries, not who, and why?
Okay, so in our overall index, we have the first position, the top position is Spain. And when you talk about Spain, I think we should understand that, first of all, from the top 10 destinations, 9 destinations are in Europe. And I can relate this fact to the fact that still Europe is a very secure, safe region, and that provides a high quality of life. And then when you mix these indicators with costs of living, and technology and innovation, Spain will be the first one, because is one of the countries that makes quality of life, security, high internet speed, for instance. That was one of the indicators we used, and low cost of living comparing to other countries in Europe. The second position is Netherlands, also because it scored really high in tech and innovation. And the third position, we have Norway. Both countries scored high in tech and innovation. English proficiency was another indicator we used when we were building our composite of indicators. And Spain and Netherlands, for instance, they give direct access to citizenship with the time. They count the time you spend as a digital nomad to the person to apply for citizenship, and was another factor, another indicator we used in our index when we were deciding or analyzing the top countries to settle or to relocate as a digital nomad. We know in Global Citizen Solutions, in the intelligence unit, that many digital nomads, they use tourist regulations to work and stay in another country, but we were interested in how countries are adapting their regulations to receive this labor force. So that's why we researched on 65 jurisdictions that have active programs of digital nomadism. The other highlight of the report is the countries in Eastern Europe, because they invested really strongly in the last years in technology and innovation. For instance, Estonia is on the 4th position in the overall index, and Romania in the 5th position. And these countries also offer good standards of living, quality of life, but a low cost of living comparing to other countries in Europe.
Okay, thank you. Laura, this is great. And I just want to acknowledge that we have a great number of people watching the live right now. Some of them are asking to see the ranking and the report, so we're sharing with them. So fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to our next guest because we have a long list of guests here and I want all of them to share their expertise. So let's now move on to Michaela. So Madeira has become a prominent hub for digital nomads. And I'm sorry if some of you are not familiar with, but Madeira is an island in Portugal. It's oh my God, how do you call that? It's not an independent island. There is a name, a specific name.
Autonomous.
That's it. Michaela knows more than me. And it's a great hub for digital nomads. So, and she is the project manager of Startup Madeira. I'd like you, Michaela, to give us your views on the transformation that happened on the demographics. How this transformation happened in Madeira, and a bit of the profile of the digital nomads that you see there.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this invitation. And it is quite important for us to keep sharing all of the process that we have been doing in the island since even before the COVID situation and after. As you mentioned, this is very briefly because I know that our short time, we have indeed a short time to talk about this, but indeed, as you mentioned, we have been noticing a quite different people that are visiting the islands, especially over and after COVID. Yes, well, basically, as Startup Madeira, we have been always focusing on how we can boost entrepreneurship in the island. We have been up and running since 1997, so it has been quite a long time that we have been working not only with the local people that are boosting entrepreneurship, but as well with international people that visit the island, either to participate in acceleration programs that we run in different topics such as tourism and gaming industry, for instance, but as well, of course, technology as a base. And the Digital Nomad project was an initiative and an opportunity during the COVID time. And we have here Gonçalo with us. And it was all about a dream that he had and he can talk more about that, of a nomad village concept where we had the working space, accommodation, but most importantly, the community. As for us knowing exactly the ecosystem and being aware of all the conditions that Madeira gather as an island, either for the great logistics, either for the infrastructure, the good internet, and the hospitality that is quite well known from the Madeira people, for us, it was definitely an opportunity to put Madeira on the map for the digital nomads worldwide, where they could come and visit. In this case, we put Madeira on the map using the Nomad Village as a dream of Gonçalo, but to use Ponta do Sol as a pilot project. Since then, it has been quite overwhelming, the impact that it had, not only economically talking, which was very important for the local and private entities of the island, which has always been our first main target to help with, but of course, the community, all about the people that we used to say, and see the different communities being created after the project began. And we have here Luis that he can talk better about the profile of these digital nomads that visit Island. We're talking about 19,000 registrations up to date. This was literally today that we hit the mark in 19,000. So it has been quite a long journey since 2020. And that we know of, we're talking about 12,000 people that were already here in the island, usually from 1 to 3 months. We are talking about registrations that from 18 to 80 years old, but mostly the digital nomads, remote workers that come here. I would say that the majority of them are between 20 something up to 40 years old. The other freelancers, mainly related to tech, And then Gonzalo can also talk more about the profiles that has been working with other as a consultant. But it has been quite interesting to see even projects and entities taking advantage of this niche of market, visiting the island and adapting their service, their project to them. And as for us as Startup Madeira, that has been always our main target, is how we can help these entrepreneurs and enterprises to keep creating new business, for instance, co-livings, a new working space inside of a hotel, and the impact that it has not only in the economy, as I said, but in different aspects, because we're talking about the travel industry mostly, but as well the business management, like we are here today talking about visas. And the business management companies in Madeira has always and has been on our side since the very beginning, helping with delivering information up to date. And it has been quite interesting, the immigration lawyers, and as well other businesses, either from restaurants and cafes, and of course rental cars. So it's a different in many ways that we can study the impact that it had. But in the end, it's all about people, it's about community, it's about the authenticity of the destination, in this case of Madeira. And for us, it has been quite interesting to keep working on this niche of market and to see Madeira to put on the map for them.
Thank you, Michaela. I'm glad you mentioned the economical boost that digital nomads can bring to a destination, because I'm going to come back to you later. But now I have a question for Anna Maria Kohanska. Had a chat with her earlier in the week, and I think we could actually, it was last week, Anna. But I think you have very interesting views about the improvements that governments can make to their regulations and infrastructure to better accommodate digital nomads. What do you think governments could be doing?
Yes, sorry, can you repeat the last sentence?
Sure, I'd like to know from you, what do you think governments could be doing to make their regulations and infrastructure better for digital nomads?
Yes, so the thing is, like, governments, they usually focus on attraction of nomads, but then there is really no plan or no strategy on how to integrate them or how to manage them once they arrive, right? That usually results in nomads being quite isolated from local communities. And then there is that part of economical boost, right? Because that's like the most immediate effect, that people come and spend money. But like, I don't think like the full opportunity of digital nomad is being really leveraged when nomads are not connected to local communities. Because all that we mentioned earlier, like the possibility of innovation or knowledge exchange, or creation of new businesses or cultural exchange, or maybe even nomads like volunteering or mentoring or influencing in some way local people to also start to look for remote work. All that only happens if they are connected in some way, integrated, if they participate in local community, as opposed to just staying like in ghettos or silos, when they just interact between themselves. And in my experience, that integration doesn't just happen naturally. So that's the job for the local government, for digital nomad associations, perhaps for co-workings or co-livings, but it has to be like intentional, like how to connect them, and we need like the bridges to connect them. And I do think that it's like it should start from local governments, like, because they are actually the most interested, like that impact is for the local population, right? And it can benefit both nomads and locals. But because when that doesn't happen, then we don't really take like the full advantage of having the nomads in the country in a natural way, like we have been seeing that, right? Like in I think in Bali or in Thailand or even Mexico, people just stay in their own areas and don't necessarily contribute as much as they could. So this is something to think about, not only like to bring those nomads, but how to manage them, how to integrate them, like how to create the bridges so it's easier for them to integrate and interact, right, and help and work with locals.
Thanks, Anna. I'm really glad that you mentioned integration now, because I am going to direct the next question to Luis Calado, founder of Madeira Friends. Um, Luis, could you share about how digital nomads integrate with the local community in Madeira?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for the invite and for all of us being here. It's a pleasure to talk a little bit about what's happening in this small but mighty island in the middle of the Atlantic, I guess. So we call ourselves Madeira Friends, and even though it's not easy to explain to people what we do, we came up with a sentence that kind of summarizes what we do and what we want to do even more. So when you try to say to somebody, we say what we do is actually we bridge the gap between locals and internationals, and we give back as much as possible, because our aim as a nonprofit association is actually to integrate foreigners in Madeira. And when I say foreigners, digital nomads are one bucket out of those. So we believe that real integration has to be real and has to be sustainable. And this is why here in Madeira we're trying to do a lot of giving back and a lot of understanding about the reality of the place where these foreigners are spending more and more time. Um, it has always been like this. The same way, I think, like Michaela was talking about the pilot project back in the pandemic, that things just scaled, and the Digital Nomad Madeira Island project became such a famous project in the world. Like during the pandemic, we also started Madeira Friends, but with a different name. We were actually called Madeira Fitness Friends, and all we wanted to do was basically working out together outdoors right after the pandemic, just because we thought it would be a good idea to get people together, like for mental health and for people to get back into spending time together and actually hugging and high-fiving each other. And then the same way that the Digital Nomad Madeira project grew, Madeira Fitness Friends also grew the scope of everything we were doing. The aha moment, or like when we understood that there was a bigger opportunity than just doing burpees together on Saturdays in Funchal with 50 people, we liked animals, so we did a fundraising with animals, and we basically put out a challenge to the community: do as many burpees as you can in 5 minutes, and let's see how much money we can raise for the animals and to pay some vet bills that were lingering around with the local association. And then suddenly we raised 1,000 euros, 2,000 euros, and that's when we were like, okay, wait a second, like there's more we can actually do, and like people moving to Madeira and spending more and more time in Madeira actually care. And so that's when we understood there was a bigger opportunity with doing more things that are not just tourism related or restaurant related. So this is why we then got into Madeira Friends. And to give you some numbers about or the activities that we've been doing so far this year, we've held over 200 events and activities so far. We've had over 7,000 people at our events in person as well. And in terms of giving back actions, we've had almost 30 giving back actions. That's how we categorize. Like we categorize giving back, we categorize like social, we categorize like tech, and fitness or health activities. And so on the giving back bucket, we have over 30 now. And to give you an idea, we're talking about knowledge transfer in schools. Like so far this year, we've visited 2 schools where we brought some great use cases of people that made the leap to be remote workers and actually can manage to be anywhere in the world and then decide to be in Madeira. And we bring them to the school, and for like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, we just talk about their lives, and then kids can ask questions, and they are really curious about understanding this possibility of like working behind a computer from anywhere. And so doing stuff like this, we've also recently tried something different, which was we held an English storytelling session at the public library, and it seems such a simple thing, but in Madeira, all these public library sessions are done in Portuguese, just because that's a Portuguese language, right? But now that Portuguese want to learn English, Portuguese kids need to learn English, and then we have almost 12,000 foreigners living in Madeira. It becomes more and more important to be able to cater for the different community here. I can give you a couple more examples, like more basic ones. We say like the beach cleanups. We've had 5 beach cleanups this year. We've planted, actually, this is something we're really proud of. Last year, there was a huge fire in Madeira. And then right away, we decided, okay, what can we do? Can we actually do something about this? And so we raised, within the community, we raised some funds to plant trees. And this year, we've already planted over 500 trees. It's actually the same number of trees that have been planted by the animal party here in Madeira, just to give you some numbers of quantity of things that are happening. So we try as much as possible to differentiate Madeira as a sustainable place, because we've seen what can happen in other locations, and so we want to attract to Madeira people that are mindful of their impact on the region, that are wanting to contribute positively to do things on the island, and to really understand the opportunities and be part of improving things, not just coming here having a great time as a nomad or remote worker, which is of course something that Madeira Friends also provides, like parties and networking events and all these activities. But we do that, but with the purpose of getting people's buy-in to actually do what really matters, which is like making sure that the international community has a positive footprint on the island. So sometimes I get to talk, I start talking, I never stop. So I think I'll leave it right there. And then if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer here or later. And you can also go to our website as well.
Sure. This is a fascinating story. Thank you very much for sharing with us, and you deserved every second that you had now to talk about Madeira Friends. It's so inspiration that you started with a fitness group after the pandemic, and then how it has grown to what it is today. And also, I might say that you have lots of fans here. The comments on our chat are all about how great you are, and about Madeira Friends. So fantastic! And thank you very much for bringing a topic that I am going to speak about with Gonçalo now, which is how kids fit into the digital nomad realm. Because with digital nomadism, we think always about, that solo loner traveling on its own, but it's not really that. It's not only that. You also have families that chose this lifestyle. So, Gonçalo, you have traveled extensively with your family and all as digital nomads, and I'd like to ask you about the benefits and the challenges that you and your family face in terms of infrastructure, education, or other aspects of being a digital nomad with a young child.
That's very, very interesting. Thank you so much, and I think it's very interesting because in our group of friends, we are getting older and we are having babies, and we don't want to quit this lifestyle. So we are just keep going. We just don't stop the lifestyle. It's much easier than people think. At least my daughter is 1 year and 4 months, and it's just easy. We just went out for lunch here in Las Palmas with some friends. I came back. She's in the park playing right now, and I can keep working. And it's not that hard. I think when people think about children, people think that it's really, really hard to travel with them. The reality, it's not. It's quite the same as traveling alone. I think the hard part is to have kids. It's not necessarily to travel with them. The having kids is really the hard part. In the future, then we have probably some challenges with education, but many people came before us and they kind of fixed most of the parts that are pain points. For example, we have this movement called world schooling, which is a global community of people educating their kids in homeschooling or private tutoring, as you prefer to call it. We have also some other projects that are popping all over the world of alternative schools. A new one is opening in Madeira. We have Brave Generation Academy, which works like co-working spaces, like hubs with online asynchronous education and offline community. So what is happening right now in the world is that people can work remotely and they can work from anywhere. So they are moving out and accepting that we need different kinds of education. Myself, I didn't really enjoy to go through the traditional education, the public schooling. I think it's completely outdated. And so what we see is a whole movement of people that choose different lifestyles, like digital nomadism, that are putting their kids into different kinds of schools, nature schools, forest schools, Brave Generation Academy, all these challenging kinds of education. And this is actually bringing and breeding a new kind of new generation, a new global generation. So what I think what will happen is that my kids and all these other kids that are going through this now, they are global citizens. I'm sure Carolina doesn't feel Portuguese, even though she's Portuguese. She feels at least European. Or maybe not even that. So a friend of mine, he has two kids. He's very famous in this community, Ken. He has one kid with 15, another with 17. And what he said to me when Katrina was pregnant, my wife, was, you have two ways of teaching kids things. Or you tell them how to do it, and they will never care, or you show them. So we don't teach our kids about Egypt. We took them and we spent 3 months in Egypt watching the pyramids, learning from history, watching, touching history, not just learning in our way. So I think that's the future, honestly. We are creating a new global generation. Most digital nomads are into this. The ones that are not, they want to be. There's a whole dating challenge that we can speak. But I see more and more nomad babies. We have actually people that I met in Madeira in the first year of the project. They have a baby with 1 day difference from ours, Ben. And that's the magic. Now we meet in different places around the world. Ben plays with my daughter and they are friends. And it's super cool to see this global community. So what's happening right now, we have with this online community all over the world, we have these offline communities, and we are having babies.
Yes, that's true. Gonzalo, amazing insights. Thank you very much, because we do see the rise of progressive curriculums that have been around for a very long time, but it is a choice now for parents that are looking for kids not to just replicate academical thoughts, but also to innovate. It's all about you do with the knowledge and how you can innovate with this knowledge. So the idea that you can actually show your kid history instead of just being, the theory on the book. It's fascinating. So I think I wasn't really fair with Gonzalo, because he's a powerhouse in the digital nomad world. So I have to introduce him properly. He's the CEO at Nomad X, and he was a very important figure in the Madeira digital nomad industry. But also, Gonzalo, I'd like you to let us know about any exciting new projects that you're having coming on. Is anything that you can share with us?
Too many things. So there's a lot happening in the world, and I see countries like developing in different ways. I think your report is truly amazing, because it shows us who needs to attract more people, who is more desperate to attract people. And one thing we see, as you mentioned, is 19 out of 20 countries are European. And we need to ask why is that, right? And the reason is Europeans are getting old. Our birth rates are really low. And Europeans desperately need to attract talent. So we are using digital nomads as a way to attract talent to our countries, including Portugal, Spain, Romania, and all the countries you saw. Estonia is a great case. So I believe actually that the future is going to be a little bit more south, and I'm actually working with Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And there was somebody in the comments, Robert, that lives in Brazil. So yes, I'm working with Brazil. I'm working with Rio, and I believe that South America will become very, very interesting in the next years and in the years to come. Buenos Aires has an incredible project. Now Rio is, we are building an incredible project. We have a small village in the northeast of Brazil called Pipa, Pipa, super safe, super chill, like the true tropical thing. And actually the idea is to build these 50 communities around the world, like we did in Madeira, like Las Palmas did by itself, other countries are doing it. But what I see is that we need these offline locations to live as a community with our families. And we are doing now in Rio, but next we have also exciting projects coming up in Portugal, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So basically the next months I'll be more around South America, Rio, Pipa, and trying to build the whole community in South America, because it's common people to go to Asia, but it's not so common yet for digital nomads to go to South America, like we have Robert here. And I think the culture, the food, the people are truly amazing, and I'm really excited to go there and to help them build this community, integrate them like Luis is doing, have a positive impact like Ana Maria talks about and is doing as well. And yeah, for me, at least personally, it's time for South America and to explore a new continent.
So Gonzalo is going South American way. I am very jealous because I'm from Rio myself, and one of my most memorable holidays in Brazil was Pipa, because it was exactly as you described, a very, very chilled place where basically you have no worries in life, just like what fruit flavor you will get for your next caipirinha, because there are many flavors there. Um, right. So I'd like to. It's been amazing talking to all of you, but obviously we have, our people here in the chat. They want to ask questions, so I will go and ask Laura my last question. Laura, can you highlight any surprising findings from the report?
Yes, I think one of the was not surprising, but the numbers were as Gonzalo was telling. Still, Europe is tops the countries where people will have the better infrastructure and the regulations for being a digital nomad, because this continent needs to attract talent and young people because of the aging of the population. So I was a bit surprised that we had 9 from 10 countries represented by European countries. And the other thing is, as I told you at the beginning, when we talk about digital nomads and we read, all the lists and the requirements and what you need to be a digital nomad, usually the professions that allow you to be that mobile globally are tech professions. But when you talk about the requirements from countries to accept digital nomads in their territories, 60% of the countries do not require any specific profession or skill. So you can be a lawyer nowadays and be a digital nomad. Of course, you're going to have to be able to work remotely, but you can be a digital nomad. You can be a writer. You can be a teacher. You can, have professions that, common people have, like everybody have, but you need to be able to work online, and that's why internet speed and internet infrastructure is so important when we're talking about digital nomadism. So I think this was one of the findings that contradicted my first assumption that countries would require very skilled people on the field of technology and web development, and then we realize that countries want talented people that work in different fields and can contribute to the community, to the society. I also agree with Ana Maria that still countries have to present a more flexible regulations, because of course when you have this first generation of digital nomad schemes, I think the country's bureaucracy is not still used to the flexibility you need to attract these talented people. But I think in the future, more and more countries will adapt their legislations to attract more people and offer more benefits for people to relocate in their territories.
Thanks, Laura. So that's great. Thank you very much. We will share with you now the Digital Nomad Report. And for some of you that haven't seen it yet, I will pick some of these questions here, and I'll explain why we're not going to answer all of them. Firstly, because we don't have the time. The conversation was so interesting that we're now over 40 minutes. Secondly, because some of these questions here are not within the expertise of our guests, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to get answered later. Okay, so we will do our best to get back to you with this information. So let me have a look here. There's quite a lot of questions regarding taxes. So I will put it all into the same question. Okay, so it all depends on the country that you choose and which digital nomad program from which country. So people asking. Digital nomad will need to pay taxes to the hosting country, such as personal income and etc. Can anyone here shine a light on this question?
Yes. Well, I can give a little bit of advice, but you have all the information about the 65 jurisdictions in our report about taxes. But usually, as you said, it depends on the country. It depends, for instance, if the country of origin of the person has a non-double taxation agreement with the destination country. It also depends if the country of relocation have these beneficial tax regimes for digital nomads. For instance, in Spain, you have a law that is not only for digital nomads, but digital nomads can take advantage of this law, that in the first 5 years that you establish in the country, you do not pay any taxes for revenue received abroad. So you have no income tax for what you source abroad. And also Portugal and other countries have similar arrangements, but it always depends on the country of relocation and the country of origin, because double taxation agreements also help you to not pay double taxes. So you pay an amount on your country of origin, and then you pay the difference. You can pay the difference on the country of relocation. So I cannot give any specific detail on the situation of the person that is asking, because I don't know where the person wants to relocate. But what I would say as an advice is always research and do your due diligence and research on tax requirements, because it can really put a lot of financial pressure if you don't do the research. The other thing I want to say is that usually, if you don't stay in a country for more than 183 days, you are not a tax resident on that country. So you would not have to pay taxes in general in that country. So it all depends on the benefits the country of relocation will give you as a digital nomad, and if the country of origin has a double taxation agreement with the country of destination. But you have other information in the report if you want to check.
Laura. That's excellent advice. Really good. Well explained. Now I've got one here, and I think I'll direct that question to Gonzalo. I'm seeing a lot of news reports about locals in Spain and other areas pushing back against tourists and foreigners. How will this change the status of digital nomadism?
I love this. Actually, SIFT wrote
Who wants to answer that one?
Yeah, SIFT, which is a publication, SIFT.eu, and I'll post later here in the comments, work extensively about both Portuguese and Spanish cases. And I know Maria Kochanska worked with them as well as I did. And what's happening is actually we need to understand why are the case of these protests. And it's a lot about mass tourism. I went deep into researching what was causing the protest, even here in the Canary Islands where I am right now. And it's usually because cost of life is going up and the housing crisis, which is not at all directed to nomads, much more to mass tourism, both in Spain and in Portugal. And that's normal. Like the cost of life went up with the war and with COVID. The inflation was huge. So I understand people are worried about their lives. They see they have less purchasing power, and it's normal to target the people they see and they feel they have more money than they do. But the reality is very different. And I speak with both governments, both Spain and Portugal. And the reality is that the governments are not changing their policies for digital nomads, but they are trying to understand what they can do about mass tourism. You have to understand the numbers. Portugal had 20 million tourists last year, 20 million, and statistics say around 150,000 nomads. The numbers are very, very different. So both Portugal and Spain are working really, really, really hard to attract more talent to Portugal. So much that the famous NHR that was ended last year by the Portuguese government is actually going to be reinstated with this new government. And this allows you, and you can tell better about this, to actually move to Portugal and pay very low taxes or no taxes, because again, Portugal, like most Europe, is trying to attract talent. So criticism is normal, but you have to understand who is the target. And the target is usually mass tourism, because the cities are full, especially the big cities, and locals don't feel they are winning with that. And we can change that actually as nomad projects. The government has the power to change that. And what we see is that in places where the community is managed by the governments, this is not happening at all at the same level as places without any data. For example, Lisbon, Barcelona, they have zero data about who is the nomads, what are they doing here, is this a problem, why are the housing prices going up? And this is a problem, the lack of knowledge, the lack of information. So what I'm seeing actually is I'm working with one big Portuguese city because they want this data, they want the nomad project, and they understand they need this market to fight seasonality, they need this market to attract talent for the city, to attract foreign direct investment. So the government feeling is pretty much the same. We need more better people. The feeling of population is prices are going up, but and they attack the first thing they see, which is tourism and anything that's foreigner. But I would say that's the 0.01% of the population. I know the media loves to share this. Media loves to share the pictures in the walls and stuff like that. Once I'm here in Las Palmas, which was considered 2 months ago almost like a dangerous place for tourists, honestly, everything is normal. There is zero protests right now. It was a week of protests. Things are over. So yes, nothing actually changed from the perspective both of Portugal and Spain. And the protests are very targeted on mass tourism and how people feel about being almost invaded by millions of people, specifically in the city centers and capital centers.
Thanks, Gonzalo. Anna Maria, do you have anything to add here? Because I've seen you being quite vocal in your comments here, and there's some great insights. So
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the context of over tourism, right? Because people don't really understand where it comes from, and they just think like 80% of tourists actually travel to 10% of places, right? And Spain and Portugal, by the way, are in the top choices, right? And then also, I actually haven't seen very interesting graphics, which I might share later. Like the reason why over tourism even exists is because, like, year over year, more people have means to travel, especially like in the recent years, Asians that, for instance, like decade or 2 decades ago, they were not really traveling. So now, and also more people in Eastern Europe, for instance. So you just basically have millions and millions of people that now have means to travel, and they all travel to the same places and usually in the same time. That's also the problem, right? Like they travel in summer. So yes, locals protest, but to me, those protests are like misdirected, because if they protest, it shouldn't be even against tourism, not against nomads, not against expats, not against tourists. It should be against like local government, because it's a local government responsibility to control how many tourists we get, on which basis, and to protect like the accommodations for locals, right? That's first thing. But on an individual level, I think it's also important to build awareness, and that's like for tourists, for digital nomads, because we can also be responsible travelers, right? We can choose to travel somewhere else if we see that something is already overflown. So we can go somewhere else, right? We have that flexibility. Or at the very least, we can travel outside of the high season. That's something we can personally do, like to ease a little bit the challenge.
thanks, Anna. We have now nearly 50 minutes on our live. Would you guys, would you like to answer one last question before I wrap up? Is that okay with you? Yeah. Okay, so I've got someone here saying I'm working remotely for the last 20 years. Which place is better for getting citizenship or residency soon?
Well, I can start. If you go through our report, I would say Spain is a good option because the time you spend as a digital nomad counts for citizenship, and people from Ibero-American countries and the Philippines only need 2 years of legal residence in Spain to start their citizenship process. Also, Czechia is a country that allows people to use the time they spend as a digital nomad to starting the process of citizenship. And there are 15 countries that would accept the time you spend as a digital nomad to apply for permanent residency. And we have some of the countries are Italy, what else, I think Canada, and some other countries that will accept the time you spend as a digital nomad to apply for permanent residency. And then this is a path for applying for citizenship. So if you go and check in our report, you're going to have the complete information about which countries will allow you to apply for residency, citizenship, with the time you spend as a digital nomad.
Okay, thank you, Laura. And I'm sorry, since we're here, let's answer another question. And I think it's important that we don't shy away from all the practical questions because, people are watching here and they like to learn about the lifestyle. They like to learn how they integrate. They like to learn about what government initiatives are happening. But it's the practical matters that will make them, decide if this is a lifestyle for them or not. So there's one question here, which is, what is the insurance amount and how does the payment work? This is the only thing I need to know. So I don't know if we can shed the light on this because it all depends on which program you're starting. But I'd like Gonzalo and Anna, perhaps Michaela, I don't know if you are able to answer that from the perspective of a digital nomad. What was your choice when it came to insurance? What did you do?
My answer is very fast. I use Safety Wing when I'm traveling. So Safety Wing is a travel insurance basically made for nomads that can last 12 months. And they insure against most things as a traveler. For health insurance, they now also have the new product targeting people that want to actually have a proper health insurance, but completely global. And the same company, Safety Wing, is offering the same. I, for now, have the travel insurance only, and I use my Portuguese system for everything else if I need it, or I just go private. Like when I'm in Brazil, honestly, I just go private. And because you can be in more affordable places, going private in Brazil is actually a great choice because of the high quality of the health system. And it's just easy and very high quality.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, so for me, I have a private insurance in Spain because I still am, and I was before I became a nomad, a resident in Spain. So like for anything planned, I just come from time to time to Spain and I do whatever I have to do in terms of health. And it has a good quality. And then I would just complement that with a travel insurance, right? Because usually for these visas or even for some project, you need to have some travel insurance. But it's important to understand that travel insurance only covers emergencies in travel. So you still need to have some proper health insurance. So either it is local in your country, or it's global. Local, usually it's gonna be cheaper, right? And global, I think it's around maybe 200, 300 if you buy it somewhere. But local, of course, you need to plan that because then you would need to go to your country to any exams or something like that. but this is very personal question, I would say, because it depends on your health status, on your age, if you have family or no, right? So it's very, very personal, I would say. Like some people, it's recommended they have a global insurance because maybe they have more, if they have any chronic issue or something, they should be able to go to the doctor anywhere they are. And young, healthy people, they may be fine with just some local insurance and then travel insurance. Something that you need to consider taking like your personal, I would say, personal experience and expectations into that.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I think we covered everything that we could cover with the time frame that we had. I think it's time to wrap up now. Some of you that are still typing questions here, don't worry, this will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel. So we can come and chat to you, put in the comment section a section answer to your question. And if we don't have the answer, but if it's directed to one of our guests, we're more than happy to direct the questions to them as well. So I'd like to thank all our panelists for those amazing insights that you shared here. And this has been an enlightening discussion. And I am looking forward to see what the next chapter in the future of digital nomadism. It's exciting times, and I encourage everyone to read our full Global Digital Nomad Report 2024, which is available now on the Global Intelligence Unit website. Thank you all for joining, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.